When it comes to eye contact as a communication strategy, you've got to really Goldilocks it in and get it just right. Welcome to the Foster Your Voice podcast with me, Kristi Foster. After a 30-year career in music and theater, I never imagined I'd be coaching trial attorneys. But once I entered your world, I quickly realized how critical and underutilized voice is in the courtroom. The truth is, you don't win trials with brute strength. You win with your voice. I'll give you tools to unlock your voice so you can communicate not just with purpose, but on purpose. If you want quick action tips to help you stay calm and in control, keep jurors engaged, and inspire your listeners to action, all through the power of your voice, you're in the right place. I'm Kristi Foster, and I'm here to help you foster your voice. Hello, Foster fam. Welcome back. Hey, I hope you had a good 4th of July celebration. Did you do some traditional things like fireworks and barbecue, or maybe you say cookout in your region? Or did you change things up a little bit? I'm just not a huge 4th of July joiner. I never really have been. I do love big firework displays like at Disneyland, but these neighborhood shindigs, they scare me to death. I lived in a neighborhood about 10 years ago that was like Armageddon. I'm just too much of a safety queen, so being part of all that scene is just not really fun for me, and it just makes me really anxious, especially when you get alcohol involved and kids are around. So just no, thank you. No, thank you. I also just haven't felt all that patriotic in recent years. So actually last year and this year, I decided to honor the immigrants on who this country is built. And so I purposefully seek out some new ethnic cuisine and immigrant-run businesses, seeking out some new cultural art, finding new to me music. And I also went to the Ridgefield Wildlife Refuge, kind of a this land is your land, this land is my land vibe. So it's just been a fun tradition for me to establish for myself. And then I'm home and I'm in before all the craziness starts. Here in Washington, you can have the kind of fireworks that shoot up into the air and have the big explosions. So it's quite a thing in my area. I just know I need to kind of protect my peace and manage my energy. Speaking of which, I read an email recently that really turned me on my head, and it just gave me a great new perspective or a strategy. So I wanted to share it with you in this point of interest section. Now, I've mentioned many times how much I love the author Jon Acuff and how he contributes to this mindset space. And this is from him. It was in his weekly email, and he presented the idea of strategic apathy. Now, generally, the idea of being apathetic about anything gives me pause. And as someone who values intentional living and who has some negative soundtracks around laziness, I'm not really down to apathy. So strategic apathy kind of intrigued me. Now, as Jon says, the idea is around the fact that the internet runs on your attention. And the fastest way to grab it is to make you upset. Anger, offense, fear, these are all just shortcuts straight to your heart. And this is where celebrity scandals play in, or politics in states that you don't live in, or teams that you've never cheered for and all the drama around them. These are the clickbait headlines that just snare and entangle you, or I should say snare and entangle me. And they take your mental and emotional energy. As Jon says, what did you do with all that information? Donate money, volunteer, read 6 books about the root causes? Realistically, no. You just wallowed. and you wasted your time and creativity. So I felt convicted by that. So strategic apathy is the answer here. Choose things you want or need to deeply care about: your health, family, your firm, your staff, your clients, your neighbors, the missions or causes that you support. Very much like the familiar Anchors series that we just finished up: the family, wealth, health, identity. Ignore the rest. Don't engage. Be strategically apathetic. Now, this isn't an opportunity to just put your head in the sand. It is important to be informed about the things that are important, especially when you have some agency to be able to affect change. But when it literally has nothing to do with you and does not impact the things you value in any way, maybe practice some strategic apathy and see if that serves you well. I'm going to adopt this for myself. I really like the idea of it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and if you think this would be a useful strategy for you as well. So big thanks to Jon Acuff for this concept, and let me know how it works for you. Hey, real quick, if your jurors look confused when you say liability, standard of care, or damages, they're not tuning out because they don't care. They're tuning out because they don't speak law. I've put together a free guide called Top 20 Legal Terms to Avoid and What to Say Instead. It'll help you simplify your language without losing credibility, so your message actually lands. Download it now at fostervoicestudio.com/top20 or click the link in the show notes. All right, back to the episode. For our communication tip today, I'm talking about something that if you do too much, it's real bad. But not enough is also real bad. When it comes to eye contact as a communication strategy, you've got to really Goldilocks it in and get it just right. Now, people who keep eye contact just a little too long, they create some unwelcomed intensity into the moment. Maybe you've experienced this. On the receiving end of that really focused intent, it makes you start emotionally and even physically backing away. When you're being stared down, it feels like it just bores a hole into you and you start physically turning inward as an act of preservation. And you can only hold that eye contact for so long before you just have to look away. It's awkward. Don't do that to your jurors. Now, I know you're not trying to be awkward. You're just seeking connection, whether consciously or subconsciously. Understood and admirable. But intense eye contact just isn't the way. On the other end of the continuum, though, avoiding eye contact is also weird and makes you look a little sketchy and untrustworthy. I had a colleague once who, I know he had a good heart and was well-intentioned. I know that. But as he spoke, he would look just slightly down and his eyes would go side to side, back and forth. Not really darting, but just not calm either. Cognitively, I know he was just thinking about what he wanted to say, maybe felt a little socially nervous. And in many ways, I appreciate how intentional he was trying to be with his words. But it felt strange to be on the receiving end of it. It just felt like he was being subversive and underhanded. Even though I knew he wasn't, it still impacted my trust levels and my own level of vulnerability with him. I didn't feel emotionally safe with him simply because he just was not comfortable making eye contact. So, where is the Goldilocks zone? Where is the just right? I think it's a good time to draw from theater and stage performance. And there are a couple different approaches based on the size of audience you're talking to and how adept you are with your nerve management if you get really nervous. So, if you're speaking to a larger group, say at a CLE or on some kind of stage, a standard trick of the trade is to slowly scan the crowd and keep your gaze just about at hairline. Again, this is for a large group where there's just some distance and a clear distinction between you and them collectively. Occasionally, make direct eye contact with someone and just hold for a second before you continue your scan. Now, you also don't want to be robotically scanning, okay? Like from left to right, all in the same plane or at the same pace. So when I say scan, I just mean keep things moving in a slow and controlled way. No darting around. Connect your movements. You can practice this right now. Just where you are, look at something in the distance on the left. And slowly, looking at everything in between, slowly look at something kind of mid-field at your right. Now slowly scan down to the left, close in. This would maybe be like a front row. And then scan just across what would maybe be the front row, looking at the right. And now kind of scan back up to mid-left. And now up to far distance to the right. Now you've got this whole zone. Okay, I've captured the full scope of the audience, just touching on the borders to help everyone feel included without zeroing in on any one person for too long. This is group inclusion. Again, for a large group where there's some physical distance between you and them. Now, it's different when you're in the courtroom, though, isn't it? Not only are you in close proximity, but the nature of your presentation is collaborative in a way. I mean, I know you're the only one doing the talking during opening, but there's still this conversational tone where you want them to feel involved in the journey, not just observing it. So even though it's still you and them, you have to approach it more like interpersonal communication. So in this situation, you still need to scan, again, meaning that you just stay in motion slowly so that you seem grounded and connected. But in this scenario, you need to make direct eye contact with individuals, just not for very long. You need to be the one then that will break eye contact. If you make them be the ones to look away, that's when trust and safety are compromised. So go ahead and use strategic moments to look at your notes. I've said before, this is a good time for the jury to catch up on their cognitive processing. And now it's also a good time for them to reset this visual energy and give you and them a break. Talk for a while, making eye contact, and then step away and look at your notes, and then come back. Now, another way to provide an eye contact break while still being in this presentation mode is simply to look slightly up and away. Partner that with a slow nod, and it gives the perception that you're taking in their words, like in voir dire, and or that you're considering your next words and just being comfortable in contemplation. It just breaks that eye contact and gives everyone a little bit of a reprieve. And then bring your eye contact back. Now, as far as helping your audience feel included, again, let's just draw on some theater principles of blocking or staging to guide us. On stage, generally speaking, you want to stay open to the audience. So the director will block the scene with the actors moving to strategic parts of the stage in order to help the audience see what they're communicating. Staying open then means that you physically turn your body or you gesture in a way that doesn't close you off. See how I'm gesturing across my body and that closes me off. So instead, I would stay open. So if you find yourself, say, on the left side of the jury box, facing them, your left, this is a good time to angle your body open to the jurors on the right-hand side of the box and make eye contact with those folks. Then it feels more like a group discussion instead of just presenting to the person right in front of you, probably with too much intensity. Now, this does take some practice, and mostly it takes some self-awareness. If the goal is to create sincere connection with the jury, slow scanning and occasional short pauses to make direct eye contact and then look away again without darting or seeming random, this is what will get you to that Goldilocks just right zone. Start practicing the slow scan and then let me know how it works for you. And until next week, keep fostering your voice. Thanks for pulling up a seat with me today and for being part of the Foster fam. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave a review or a comment so I can give you a shout out on a future episode. During the week, you can find me on Instagram at Foster Voice Studio, where I'm dropping little nuggets of vocal technique and leadership wisdom. You can also join my mailing list by visiting fostervoicestudio.com or by clicking the link in the show notes. I'll send a weekly vocal tip every Tuesday directly to your inbox. Until then, keep fostering your voice.